Hi, I'm Jim Gordon, back with another edition of Small Cap Interviews. Joining us today is the CEO and Director of Alerio Gold Corporation, Mr. Al Fabbro. Al, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Good to have you, sir, with over 30 years experience in both the finance and mining industries. Let's start with your backgrounds and how you came to be the CEO and Director of Alerio Gold.
Well, I was sent to the bush as a 16-year-old, sort of as punishment as being a rowdy teenager, and I fell in love with the mining exploration industry, and I continued to do that in the Yukon for about 6 summers through university, and I ended up taking the Canadian Securities course one summer, and in 1979, the gold market hit $800 an ounce, and silver hit $50 an ounce, and oil hit $35 a barrel, up from $5 a barrel. And the VSC went from trading about 700,000 shares a day in total to about 15 million shares a day. And they were hiring anybody with a securities course. And I ended up getting a job downtown and ended up on the trading floor. And I started there for a 3-month apprenticeship, and I left 10 years later. And then from there, the trading floor went computerized, and I didn't really want to sit behind a computer screen all day and just trade stocks. So I moved into the natural resource group, and with my exploration experience and my trading experience, I found a niche in that group, and we had quite a good run for about 10 more years. And then I joined Canaccord in about 2000 and was a retail broker, specifically financing junior mining exploration companies. And then after the debacle in 2008, I decided that, you know what, I'm tired of giving these guys money and them making excuses, so I'm going to go do this myself. And so we started a couple of companies. One was Roxgold, which was a Burkina Faso exploration gold company. We made about 1.5 million ounce high-grade gold discovery. The mine is currently in production. It's probably about 50% mined out now. It was a nice discovery. We also started a company called Midnight Sun Mining, which is a copper exploration company in Zambia. We surround the Kasanchi mine in Zambia, First Quantums, and the Alerio opportunity presented itself about a year ago.
And Al, tell us about Alerio Gold Corporation.
Alerio Gold Corporation is a Guyana-focused gold exploration company. We have 2 properties, the Tassawini and the Perini. We're focused on the Tassawini. Tassawini has a 500,000 ounce resource that we feel can expand it to much larger, maybe 2.5 million ounces. Why did I take this opportunity? I know a little bit about Guyana, English law, English language. I like the Guyana Shield as far as prospective gold belt. This property had a huge step forward. It had about $30 million already spent on it. There was a resource of 500,000 ounces of gold. And that's not enough in its entirety. So, because we know 500,000 ounces isn't the right number, we need something quite a bit larger than that. But the prospectivity of this license, we've got 4 or 5 other targets that are as big or bigger than the resource. And we've got a lot of other areas where artisanals are working in the area that we've never even looked at. So I can see a chance to get this to 2.5 million ounces relatively simply, and that would be enough to sort of attract senior attention, which is where we want to be.
You've led me into what I was going to ask you next, and that's why Guyana. You've added some of that. Is there anything else you'd like to add about that? And can you describe some of the success stories in Guyana?
Guyana is the only country in South America that's English language. It's English law. It's a small population base. Under 1 million people live in Guyana. The Guyana's Gold Shield is all across the top of South America. It's very prospective. There's been several large mines found there. Oh My produced about 5 million ounces in the day. Reunions looks like they're developing a 5 million ounce gold resource there. It's very prospective for gold. We're starting with a good resource at 500,000 ounces that we think we can expand aggressively. And we're comfortable there. Canadian mining explorers have felt comfortable there for decades, and it's a good place to hunt for gold. Oh My was probably the first time I was ever introduced to Guyana, early when Placer pulled out of the Oh My arrangement. They had a joint venture with I can't remember the company, I'm sorry, but we financed him early in the game in Guyana. We financed other deals in Suriname, in that whole Guyana Shield. It was very prospective. Kilometer 88 in Venezuela came along. So that whole belt of rocks has a lot of gold in them. As far as prospectivity is concerned, it's a very, very good place to hunt for gold. Very similar to the Canadian Shield. It actually was at one point part of West Africa, so you can see some synergies between the West African geology and the Guyana Shield geology.
And Al, how is the gold deposits in Guyana compared to other gold producing regions in the world?
Very similar. You get some large deposits, 5-6 million ounce deposits. Metallurgy is fairly simple. It's a large greenstone belt. At one time was connected with the West African greenstone belt, so that was all one greenstone belt at the time. The greenstone belt in Canadian Shield, same rocks, same age. Greenstone belts account for about half of the world's gold production and gold resources. It's a great place to hunt for gold. You get large mines, and the thing about these greenstone belt deposits is they go deeper than we can go, so that you can get your size at depth as well as laterally.
And can you describe, give more description of the area, the stage, the landscape? I mean, are there major producers in Guyana? Are there is there a senior company presence there?
Yeah, Guyana Gold Field's got taken out about 3 years ago, building that mine now. I don't think it's in production yet. Omai is being looked at to be redeveloped. There's a good group of people taking that on. And Reunion Gold's made a significant discovery in the country that looks like it's going to be north of 5 million ounces. So there's good potential for large size scale projects. And seniors are not, they're hunting as much as they are watching what the juniors are doing down there. So there is a reason to be there.
Talking with the CEO and director of Alerio Gold Corporation, Al Fabbro, over 30 years experience in finance and mining industry. Also, we should mention too, alariogold.com. Al, can you give our viewers your ticker information?
We trade on the CSE, under ticker symbol ALE, like the beer ale. We have about 100 million shares outstanding, and we trade about 4 cents right now.
Once again, it's alariogold.com for more information and contact info. Al, tell us about your Tassawini project.
Tassawini was developed back in the early 90s. The group that had it seemed to have a focus that they wanted to get to a certain number of ounces and then put it into production and then develop ounces out of the production revenues. And it was a pretty standard model back then for a junior, especially if you had any operating skills on your staff. And so the number of 500,000 ounces on our resource for Tassawini is not a random number. That's the number they were looking to get to sort of develop this asset. And so once they got there, they thought they could finance, build it, put it in production, maybe somewhere around 35 to 50,000 ounces a year, and from that replace the ounces and explore the property without being dilutive to the capital structure. And right in that time they were doing that, probably Bre-X hit, which caused a 10-year debacle in the junior mining markets. There was no money for any kind of gold related industry. So these guys went broke. The deposit went hand to hand from a bunch of people that sort of were more merchants than mine builders or mine explorers. And our group took it over about 3 years ago.
And Al, can you tell us how much has been spent developing the project to date?
They spent about $34 million, which is a little high, you think, for a 500,000 ounce resource. But again, I think a lot of that money spent was on engineering and development of a mine as opposed to just pure exploration. But it sort of fits. We basically look at about $40 an ounce to discover an ounce of gold, and at 500,000 ounces, that's 20 million US. So money was well spent, I think.
And what kind of gold grades have you encountered in drilling on the project to date?
We've got some high grade gold, but the resource totals about 1.7 grams, all in saprolite. It's an attractive resource. It could be developed considerably higher grade than the average open pit. The average open pit heap leach would be about 1 gram. or less.
And you recently carried out a technologically advanced survey with Oracle. Can you tell us about that and how it became?
Yeah, we had some insiders of the company were familiar with the Oracle technology. They're a really forward-thinking group that has developed some new technologies to help explore for gold, especially in these tropical climes. So what the survey did, and it's all done from satellite imagery, is give us a roadmap for fracture density in the rocks. And why that's important is that gold needs someplace to go. So if you don't have the fractures where the gold can flow through the rock, it won't stick there. So what we found with the results was quite interesting. That when we overlaid the results with the existing resource, we got a bona fide anomaly. And then we found we had 4 or 5 other anomalies that were in similar size and strength that have never been tested by any form of exploration. And they coincide with artisanal workings in that area. So we know there's gold. When artisanals are working, their economics mean if they don't get gold, they don't eat. So we know there's gold there. Now, that's not necessarily an economic factor for us, but what it does do is tell us it's a pathway to go explore for gold. So we think that these new targets developed by Oracle's technology are very significant and that we can create more ounces exploring those targets before we have to go deeper on our initial resource. So the chances to develop ounces now grows considerably. We've got 500,000 ounces down to about 100 meters in the saprolite. Never tested deeper for the sulfides, and now we've got 4 or 5 other areas which we can extend laterally to develop a larger resource before we go deeper and chase the other ore. So it's first rule of exploration: you go as far laterally as you can. Once you kill it, once you find the extent of it laterally, then you go deeper, because the deeper drilling obviously is more expensive.
Which is really, you answered a lot of my next question about just what the findings tell you about the property. Can you elaborate a little more on, in your expertise, potential for additional discoveries?
Yeah, well, we want to test the thesis of the radiometric survey. And the best way to do that, we feel, we'll bring our backhoe and we will trench these surveys along strike and sample them every meter. If that passes muster and we get good gold grades in that, we'll bring in an air core drill. We'll drill that to the extent of the saprolite. We will, if assays come through on that, then we'll do a diamond drill program to delineate these ounces.
Let's talk about going forward, Al. Anything else that you'd like to discuss with our viewers about the project and next steps going forward?
No, the trenching program is very important. It's systematic exploration is what this project needs, and we need to show the market that there is a clear, distinct path to a lot more ounces, and we think we've done that. The trenching program will be critical. We hope to do that sometime in September, and if we can get the results that we think we're going to get on the trenching program, I think the story will really sell itself.
Al, last question for you. Let's talk about the next steps for Alerio. Plans with this project moving forward, which include raising $1 million. You take it from there.
Yeah, we're going to raise $1 million here. That'll initiate a community relations program with the indigenous people of the area, create some jobs for them. We're going to refurbish the camp that's been abused for a few years. And then we're going to initiate a trenching program. All this equipment will come downriver on the barge. We can bring it in on the barge relatively cheaply, and trenching program is going to be a very significant part of our future.
We're talking with the CEO and Director of Alerio Gold Corporation, Al Fabbro. More information, of course, alariogold.com. Before we wrap things up, are there any final thoughts you would like to leave with us and the viewers?
Yeah, this is a really good time to invest in the gold mining exploration business. It's been beat up as badly as it possibly could be. There's a million excuses why not to get into it. The price of gold is nearing $2,000. Gold is in high demand, and the junior market is absolutely decimated. So there's no better place to start there. Alerio, for example, you get a $4 million market cap starting out. You got 500,000 ounces of gold. To discover that kind of gold, it's at least $40 an ounce. There's a $20 million implied value on those ounces. And we believe that we can expand that resource significantly with limited risk. So it's a very good time for Alerio and a very good time for an investor. It's not frothy at all. It's so beat up that that's when you want to get in the market, when there's blood in the streets.
And on that point, sir, we will end this edition of Small Cap Interviews. Al, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I wish you luck with your future endeavors. CEO and Director of Alerio Gold Corporation. It's Mr. Al Fabbro. More information, alariogold.com. Thank you, Al.
Thank you, Jim. Nice meeting you.
You too, sir. And you're most welcome. And for our viewers who watch us, thank you for joining us on this edition of Small Cap Interviews. More videos and everything available at our YouTube channel, Small Cap Interviews. You can also follow us on Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm Jim Gordon. Thank you once again for joining us on Small Cap Interviews.